Good afternoon. On this lovely sunny day, it's a little bit windy outside. It's a little bit chilly, but it's still so beautiful, and the air is kind of nice and fresh. And today I have with me a very special guest. She's here visiting with us. But really a perfect timing. We have with us Suzanne Poff at All Summers Day Gardening. And Suzanne is going to be sharing with us some tips on gardening and curb appeal. Suzanne, just so that you know, as a stager myself in the staging business, we're always helping clients to get their homes ready, show ready and market ready when they're planning on selling their house. And one of the first things that I always recommend is a great curb appeal, because it's the first thing that potential buyers will see as they drive up the road, right? And so I always tell my clients that you have to attract potential buyers right from the start, from the curb. And typically how your curb appeal looks is very telling of what the inside of the house looks. And so thank you very much for joining me here today. And let's share some tips with our audience here, because I am as good as I am at staging and designing the interior of the house. I am the worst at gardening. I have the worst black thumb. I can barely keep silk plants alive. So I'm going to be relying on you a lot to share some great curb appeal tips with our audience. Okay. So let's just jump right into the questions. What are some of the curb appeal trends that you're seeing now?
Some of the trends I'm seeing now is a lot of retro and antique coming into play with curb appeal. So a lot of people are picking up, old watering cans and turning them into planters, that kind of thing. I've seen, little wire carts put out and just filled with pots and plants and stuff like that as well. And part of my job too is I follow a lot of the trends the best I can. I don't watch much TV, but I watch the Home Garden Television Network all the time. And so I like to see what other professionals are doing to work with curb appeal. I love the fixing up shows where they remake an entire house and what they do for landscaping and stuff as well. So I've noticed a lot of trends that way, where they're just taking old items and layers of planters too, just to give that color and just make the house stand out as well. And a lot of people are going to either do a classic look, or they go really, outside the box and do something really happy.
I love that rustic look as well. But one of the things I always tell my clients that you have to be careful. Less is always more, right? And sometimes I drive by, even in our own neighborhood, and I see people have so much stuff in their garden, like a village of gnomes. It's like Gnomes, the movie, that animated movie. Right. And so definitely less is more. And I do love all of that antique rustic look, using old things. But would you agree?
Knick-knack kind of ornamental things. I would say if you're selling your home, don't put those out. Box them up, leave them with you. But as far as, unique little planter pieces where you're going to put some pop color at your front door, definitely give that a little bit of a, old watering can turned into a planter.
Right. But even if people are not planning on selling, this is for their own garden and their own enjoyment. Would you recommend the same?
You know what? To me, gardening is a lot of personal preference. What I might like, somebody else may not like. And so I always try to work with a client around, what do you like? I had a client that only liked purple. They only wanted purple flowers or pink flowers. They didn't like any other color. So we worked around that. they liked clean lines, so like square planters or rectangular planters, that sort of thing. But I always try to figure out what my client likes personally.
Excellent. Yes, it's when it's for their own enjoyment, definitely. And I tell my clients when I'm working with design the same thing too. How I treat my clients when it's about staging their home to appeal to the mass versus to their own personal preference when I'm helping them to redesign their house. It's a two very different approach for sure.
Yes.
So now, what are weeds? Weeds is the bane of my existence here. Like sometimes I walk around the neighborhood, the weeds have completely overtaken people's lawn. There's so many rules and restrictions about what type of products can be used now. Right. What have you found to be an effective product to use that is still natural and safe for people and pets?
So I'm going to tell you what I do on my own property. I actually go around and I dig out those weeds as soon as they start. I like natural on my property. I don't have chemicals. I have a lot of chemicals. There's children in the neighborhood, so I just take a time and I go dig them out. And if you've got dandelions coming, before they go to seed, just pop those flowers off, please. Don't let them go to seed. Because once those seeds start flying around, you're done. As far as gardens go, so I focus mostly on gardens for a lot more clients. A lot of times I pull in when their gardens are just overgrown with weeds and they're just at a loss of what to do. I'll get in there, and it's important to get the root of the weeds out. So I'll get in there with a shovel and actually loosen up all their soil, get down my hands and pull all those weeds out. And then I highly recommend doing a mulch. Nice thick layer of mulch over your garden beds. Black is my go-to color. It just showcases your plant really beautifully. The contrast of the black with the green and then the colors of the flowers.
So pretty.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. That's what I go to on my own property for many years now. And that'll just bring the maintenance down on your property for the weeds, control the weeds. And sometimes I've got some clients right now that are handling very invasive weeds, such as bindweed. So I'm back at their place every 2 weeks, just pulling those out. There's not a surefire way of killing these weeds. It's just continuously getting after them and getting them out of there. Right. So that's some recommendations there.
It definitely does seem like a very daunting task because even when you remove that one, the next one will just pop right up a couple of days later.
Definitely.
Especially if you're sharing part of your front garden or front lawn with your neighbor too. And if they don't tend to it, to your point, if it gets to seed and it starts to blow, then it's going to get on your side, right?
It will. It will. Yeah. But and another tip for your lawn too is to every year I buy some really good garden soil, put it down on my sod and overseed it. And then it just basically will eventually choke out those weeds. And we do fertilizer every spring, during the summer, and the fall. Mark, my partner, he's more into the sod and the lawns. I do more of the gardens. So,
okay.
But I just kind of follow his lead on some of these areas.
So when do you recommend doing that? In the spring?
Definitely in the spring, yes.
Okay. Awesome.
So that's on my to-do list this Sunday, actually. I've got a whole to-do list on my own property. So getting out there, digging out the weeds and throwing some soil down and some seed.
We're getting to the tail end of the spring right now, aren't we?
Definitely.
So here's another question for you. So what should people consider when they are purchasing and planting plants and flowers? What are some of the things that people should take into consideration?
Well, my thing that I tell clients all the time is the nursery staff, wherever you go, are really fully trained, know their product. So I suggest always just grabbing one of the nursery staff I've had some clients take me with them. And we go through, they'll give me we'll go through all the different plants. I'll make suggestions and they'll say either yes or no, I don't like this is why. But definitely the nursery staff are there to help you. So if you have a sunny location, they'll help you out with that and give you suggestions on plants for those locations. If you need drought tolerant plants, they're the best people to talk to about that as well. On your plant, when you're looking at plants, you'll see a little tag. On that tag, we'll give you like a little symbol. It'll show you sunshine. Simple. It means this plant needs 6 hours or more sun a day, or it could be part shade. Also on that tag, it'll also describe what kind of soil it needs. If it needs well-drained soil, that sort of thing. But yeah, definitely, your go-to is the staff there. That's what they're there for. They're there to help you out. I've often sent clients out and said, just, look at flowers, pick out the ones that you like, that appeal to you, and then talk to the nursery staff about your location where you want to put this plant. Then they'll help.
My problem has always been like I look for the plants that can live in full shade because my backyard is in full sun all day long. I need the drought ones because I don't have time or the desire to water them every day, so I tend to forget about them. But I still want them to live, and so it's very hard to look for those plants. And then I want a full garden right away, so I do try and read those tags about planting every 6 inches apart. I don't always adhere to it because I want that full look right away. So what do you recommend for people like that, like me?
So gardens take time to get established. My recommendation is, in between those plants, it's going to take a few years for them to put the roots down and start greening up and coming out. By annuals. Grow a bunch of annuals in between them in any time.
Good idea.
If you can see over my shoulder, I got some annuals here in a pot. I was we'll get to that topic later about how inexpensive it is to do your own. But they fill out so quickly, they're showing color. So my recommendation is if your garden is young and you just bring it in, grow a bunch of annuals in between. And there's some hardy annuals as well, like petunias, alyssum, geraniums. They're very, very hardy annuals, and just show color also.
Perfect. That's what I need. Hardy plants that I can't kill. So that brings me to my next question is, what are some of the popular flowers that you're seeing now, and why are they so popular? Because I know what my favorites are. Like I love the peonies because the blooms are so big and so colorful. I love, what's that plant with the big ball? What is it called?
Hydrangeas?
Hydrangeas. I love those, right? Another gardener told me to stay away from hydrangeas because it's not so in anymore, but I still love them. But anyway, you tell us about what are some of the popular plants and flowers now.
Well, you've touched on a couple of them. A lot of people like their hydrangeas and their peony plants. They're big, beautiful, showy flowers. They do last a nice period of time. A lot of again, it's all personal preference. My back garden is just a wildflower garden. I've got coneflowers and daisies, black-eyed Susans, lupins, and it's just a wild garden. I've got daylilies and everything like that. I just like the wild look of it all. My front garden is more formal. So again, it's like delphiniums are another one that a lot of people go to. Lupins. There's just so many. But garden centers are also coming out with new plants all the time. A few of the garden centers I've signed up for newsletters and such from. They're always sending me out new qualifiers for plants. Different trends over the years were, if you remember the weeping cypress trees, it was like everybody rushed out and everybody's front lawn had these beautiful weeping cypress trees. And they look like trees that are dying, but they're really different. Same with the wave petunia when it came out. Fantastic plant. So it's all these new plants continuously come out, and it's just means that it's better and better what they're doing with plants. So they're becoming more hardy, like the way peaches, for example, when we plant them in and they just spilling over those planters boxes like crazy. It just gives that waterfall effect. So
I love that.
yeah, so there's just so many different plants out there to choose from.
Right. Yeah. And now I hear, through the commercials about the invincible plants and flowers. They're very hardy.
Yes.
And they give off like big, beautiful blooms. Do you recommend that for people? Like, are they truly as hardy as they say they are?
There are really hardy. I always recommend native plants. So if you're going to want a nice hardy plant for Ontario, look at your zone. You're looking at zones on the plants and stuff like that. You're really confused. That's what the garden staff.
It is.
Staff is very helpful for. Is like, is this native to Ontario or our zone? And they'll help you with that. There are a lot of things to be careful with when you're purchasing their hibiscus, for example. There are a couple of hibiscus in there. People look at them and go, "Oh, that's so pretty! It's a beautiful yellow flower with an orange center." I put it in my garden and wonder why it didn't. That's why it's actually a tropical plant. It's only meant to be a seasonal plant for the season, or you can bring it indoors and overwinter it and bring it back out next season. But so again, it's just look for those native plants. They're the best ones for your garden.
It's hard to choose when you walk into that garden center, though. There are so many pretty things, and then you want to take them all home. And then, for somebody like me who just don't know, you're just buying it for the pretty look of it, and then you don't have to take care of it afterwards.
True.
Now, what are some of the lower maintenance plant? I know I talk about this a lot because I'm assuming that there are more people like me out there who have that black thumb and can't tend to their garden. So what are some of the low maintenance plants that you recommend for people like me or somebody who's just too busy to tend to it on a daily basis?
A lot of things, and you touched on one earlier, the hostas. Hostas are fantastic for the shade gardens, and there's so many varieties now. Recently, about a month ago, I took a client who's also a friend of mine out to a garden center, and I suggested hostas for her area to locate it. And a lot of people think, it's just that typical plant. But there's so many varieties. I took her to the garden center and showed her what there was available. She was shocked at the leaf variations, right? So there's small leaves, there's ones with yellow leaves and stuff like that. So you can get kind of the all mix. And it's such a beautiful showing plant now. Another one, like I touched on earlier, are cornflowers. Super hardy plant. They grow in a clump formation. I always let plants go to seed every fall, and I never cut any of my plants down. A lot of birds will eat those seeds for winter. They also use the plants for an area to kind of get in and shelter and stuff as needed. So I often say, it breaks my heart sometimes when the client says, "No, I insist, I want you to cut all my plants back." I'm like, "No, it hurts." But so cornflowers and black-eyed Susans, any of your daisies. Daisies aren't just white anymore; they're pink and orange, all of colors. So those plants are very hardy. They're very easy to maintain. They just kind of spread on their own a little bit in a clump formation.
Nice.
And they're good for the wildlife too. Another one, the ground covers, like periwinkle, creeping phlox, those kinds of, any of the ground covers usually are pretty hardy plants. And they fill in those spaces in between your other perennials nicely. But warn you, there are some out there that will take over your garden, such as your weed. That's one that just plant that and you're not getting rid of that. Unless you're really dedicated to rip it out. They'll take over everything. So err on the side of caution with some of the ground covers that you're looking at.
Right.
Again, nursery staff, say to them, is this easily controlled? Is it invasive? Or weed is an invasive plant. Oftentimes I'm hired to go in and take a lot of these invasive plants out. So it's me in a job though.
That's fantastic. So
now and then the other ones that are very hardy are your ornamental grasses. So if you get, again, ones that are native to our area, they're all different sizes and stuff like that. And that's, again, a clump formation that just gives a different texture and appeal to it.
Right, right. Yes, and I love the ornamental grasses as well. But sometimes I do find that they do creep and take over the garden as well.
Depending on the ones that you purchase.
Right.
There are some smaller clumping ones. Yeah, there's some smaller clumping ones. Like I've got a little blue fescue grass in my back garden, and it's just stayed in the same little clump for years.
Oh, really?
So it hasn't spread on me. But again, look at, and you know what? Google is a fantastic thing. If you don't know something about a plant, just Google it. It's fantastic.
Okay.
A lot of my information too. If I run into a plant I don't know anything about, I thought, I'll just Google this and see what other people are saying about these plants, especially if you're not sure if you're crazy.
Right, right. Good point, good point. I think I need you to come and look at my garden.
I'm up until the end of next week.
I wanted to go back to what you said earlier about not cutting your plants back in the fall so that the wildlife has it for shelter and food and whatnot. So when would be the right time to cut it back then? Would the spring? Would you cut it back in the spring, or you just let it go?
I cut it back in the spring. Things like hydrangeas, I cut those back in the spring. Some clients want me to cut them back in the fall, but I always like to judge in the spring because you're going to get some dead wood, winter damage, shrub type plants. So we wait until the spring and we see the buds starting to come out. That's when I like to actually go in and release kind of plants. Again, like I said, nature uses a lot of this. So some of my grasses in the back, my ornamental grasses, in the spring I see birds going and starting to pluck some of the dead out of there to build a nest with. So, you know, it's good for nature, really. That's that's why I don't cut them back. But again, it's personal preference. Some people don't like that kind of. It is a little messy look coming into the spring with these plants left alone. But again, I prefer not to do anything.
Fantastic, fantastic. Another question for you. So for people selling their homes, what do you recommend that they do so that they can achieve, you know, that great curb appeal look on a budget? Because it's always, when people are selling their home, everything is done on a budget, right? Because it's not there for them to enjoy. It's just so that they can sell their home.
Yes. So the most important thing for me to tell clients, and I've worked with a real estate agent last summer on a couple of homes, and again, like you said, they're on a budget. So I ask them what their budget is. What's the most you want to spend on this, you know, before you're selling your house? And a lot of clients are working on the inside to fix up their house as well too. So they're, you know, a tight budget. So weeding and mulching your gardens, very important. Now just clean, tidy, neat. If you hire someone like me in, I edge the garden. I go in and weed them and then mulch the garden. Another thing is pruning back any shrubs that you have or any hedges. Nice, neat, tidy hedge just looks like it's cared for. Another thing too is a pop of color. So, like I mentioned before, right behind me here is so this was very inexpensive to do. So right here is the alyssum, and what happens is this will come and it will spill over the planter and give that waterfall effect. Behind it, I have some peas that right there, and one marigold. Marigold deters different insects and different pests, like rabbits will come and eat them and that sort of thing. So I like to throw a marigold every once in a while in some of my planters, and it gives a nice little pop of yellow too. So the planter was something I got really cheap end of the season one year. I think it was like $10 or not even. So you can look for sales like Canadian Tire or any Lowe's and stuff. They often have these sales at the end of the year and sometimes. So, and then with the plants in there, very inexpensive. You just need to buy some like soil, throw it in there. Or potting soil is probably your better bet because it actually has some. I forget what it's called, but you'll see that there's like little white dots in there, and that helps airflow through.
Oh,
The
nice.
key about planters, though, is that to keep this beautiful, you need to deadhead the flowers. So I'm going to show you what I mean by deadheading the flowers. As they start to die off, you can pinch off the flower, it stimulates growth from below, and you'll continuously get beautiful flowers throughout the summer, and it won't get that. Some of those plants you see that are really straggly and stuff.
Okay.
So here, I'm going to take this flower, this way. So you're just going to take it, and you just pinch it at the head, like that, and that's all you do.
So just from the head itself, not any further down?
No, I just pinch it off right behind the head, and then that'll stimulate growth from below, and you'll have a beautiful full planter for the season. And then another tip too with planters is you need to fertilize it. Sometimes if you don't have the time to do like a liquid fertilizer like I do all the time, just get one of those shaken ones. Shake in some fertilizer on top of it, and it just will fertilize over time. Why planters need fertilizer more than plants in the ground is because every time it gets watered, the nutrients come out with the water. It doesn't stay in the soil like in the garden beds. So you want to fertilize them, and then they'll be large and showy for you. These guys just got fertilized this morning, so they'll just start sprouting even more for me.
It's beautiful.
The other tip is planters water every day.
Oh, really? Every day?
Every day. So I have a little morning ritual. I go out. I have a lot of planters on my back deck. So I go out every morning with my tea and I deadhead. And it doesn't take me very long. I get the hose and I just water everything. And it's 15 minutes maybe of my morning spent like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Suzanne, for all the great tips. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share with our audience?
I'm talking all day long about plants, but I won't. But definitely, my company's name is All Summerscape Gardening. I have a Facebook page. I have a weekly post called Friday's Flowers. So I pick a plant and I talk a bit about the plant in my post. So if you like and follow my page, you'll be able to go in and read that weekly.
Perfect.
It's just giving out to everybody some information that I know on plants. Hoping other people too.
I love that. Thank you very much. So definitely, if you're interested in learning more about planting and flowers and gardening, make sure that you look for Suzanne. Her business page is All Summerscape Gardening, so follow her there, like it, and I'm sure you'll get lots of great tips to improve your curb appeal. Thank you, Suzanne, for joining me today. I really appreciate all the tips, and that is it. Hopefully, we will chat again very soon.
Hopefully, we'll see you soon.
Yes. You take care. Have a fantastic afternoon.
You as well. I'll be gardening.
Bye.